Boston. Tell people, just briefly, what's your assessment right now where this fight for reparations is in the state of Massachusetts?
Good afternoon, everyone. Hey, my sister Adjoa, how are you?
Hey,
and
I'm
Attorney
fine.
Wineberry.
How are you?
I was riveted to your recantation of the history of what is for Washington State. Not necessarily a place most of us think is hotbeds for slavery, right? But here we are. We're everywhere. But I am speaking to you today from the capital city on the hill, Boston, Massachusetts, and I'm telling you that I think this is a culmination of a lot of energy and fight all over this country. But let me tell you a little bit about Boston and this connection to reparations discussion and the latest action and implications of the Trump administration's decision to cut money from the museums. Because they're related, Barbara and Daryl.
They sure are.
Less people think. So I want to paint a picture of what we call the Museum of African American History. Not a building that was built to be a museum. It is in fact the site of the first African meeting house. If that sounds familiar, it is because that is the place where Frederick Douglass stood, William Lloyd Garrison. It was, in fact, the recruiting center for black soldiers for the 54th Regiment of Civil War. It is also the site of the Abel Smith School. What is the significance? It was constructed in 1835 as the first, I always call it the first public school in the country for African American children. And of course, the African Meeting House I just talked about was built in 1806. So much of what was said in the workup to Attorney Wineberry's presentation, our history, Barbara, I think you said, or maybe Daryl, our history is the American history. And I think no place is that more clear than in Boston. This museum was in fact the site, the safe house for the hundreds and thousands of fugitive slaves that ran from the South, seeking hospice, seeking safety in the North, and literally, oftentimes got it when their foot crossed that door. They were chased right to that door and could not go any farther. So this African Meeting House is on the Freedom Trail, which is the most important historic site in Boston. If you come here, you're going to and ask, what can you do for tourism? That's where you will go. That's where you will go. So when the administration made this decision to cut support for this, you understand what they are trying to do is to erase the very history that Attorney Wineberry that you just laid out. As if they don't let us tell it, it won't be told. And this is going to be the lesson. This is the test for all of us because we say it when we talk to each other. We're the only people who leave to other folks to teach our history. No longer we can't because they said we ain't teaching it. And if we want it to be told and we want to hear the story of why we think we should be in line in every state in the nation, because every state was involved in the discussion about reparations, this is why. This is what they want to hide. So in Massachusetts, it's not a new discussion, but I think, don't get it twisted. This is as much a fight in Massachusetts as it is anywhere else, because Massachusetts, like many people would like to believe, that they have always been, the gracious innovators and abolitionists. And so we don't need to do this, when in fact, Massachusetts was the hotbed of much of the big fight about the abolition of slavery. And right here, we have so many sites here. It's just like we have the museum, testaments to the very people who were the biggest slaveholders, some former governors here. And so we're going to continue that fight. We're going to continue the fight. The fight is going on in the city of Boston, in the capital city. I have to say that the city of Boston is much farther along than the state of Massachusetts, because we, in fact, have a reparations task force that is actively at work doing the exact thing that Attorney Wineberry talked about and that Adjoa has been working on for so long.
All right now. And it's so amazing. That's just wonderful. You guys are blowing me away. What a great show. Adjoa, you straddle both the reparations fight, but you've also been a leader in the legal committee that is part of what's called the Legal Collaborative that has come together in defense of Black museums. So Adjoa, I know you want to talk, you got a word to say about this whole fight nationwide for reparations, where we are, the states that have done the right thing, those who still got work to do, and those who are going and the work that must be done. And I also know that you have a word to say about about this fight for the museum. So let us turn the floor over to you, because I'm quite aware of your time constraints. Go ahead.
Yeah, I think the thing that the Legal Collaborative looked at when it really started right after the Trump's executive order that he issued that basically said that on March 27, I'm looking at the piece of paper with the date, and it's called "Restoring Truth and Sanity to American History," and that should tell us from the very beginning what the story is. The story is that the Trump administration wants to tell the story that he wipes out the criminality, the brutality, the illegality now, unconstitutionality, all of that, of the actions by the U.S. government and other governments, white-led, that not only embraced slavery, but have embraced, and that's more than just slave states, have embraced the view and in action as well as in words that Black people were not as good as, were inferior, that we really didn't injure them or hurt them at all. In fact, if you recall back when the discussion of slavery with some years ago, the pronouncement that in fact we should in fact be glad that we were enslaved and brought to the United States. Look at Africa. Of course, they dismissed the fact that they raped Africa, which is why Africa struggles in so many ways.
Yes.
So the Trump administration wants to tell the lie, but they cast it as the truth, the continuing lie that they tell us and tell the world that, we didn't do, the stories they're telling in their museums and the National Museum of African American Culture, the one on
Oh, you're breaking up. You're breaking up. Everybody, put your phones on silent. Please mute your phones. And Adjoa, let's try you again. Go ahead.
Basically, the point is that they want the lie to be the truth, and so he wants to eviscerate the years and years and deep research done to put together the exhibits at the Smithsonian and other places, but the National Museum of African American History and Culture was his first target. We're looking at, and we have a resolution that is in its final stages that by the end of the week we should be able to circulate broadly that lays out the errors in the Trump administration's approach, lays out the fact that the contributions that black people have made to this country during slavery as well as post-slavery, as continuing now, but also lays out the injuries that have been imposed upon black people of African descent by the governments and in many instances, I think, not only the government but corporations. So we have won a resolution, and we're calling upon people, and of course we're calling upon the government to retract, Trump to retract his executive order. The odd thing, not the odd thing, but the powerful thing about an executive order is nobody can overturn it but a president. So we, yeah, but it's like, they can act as king, right? This is what he tries to do anyway. So yeah, it's a group of people that have come together. We're working on the legal part, but we're looking at political and legislative, political and as well, reaching out to educate people and that kind of thing on this. It's I guess the last point I would make about it is that it is important, we felt, and this is a group of black lawyers and law students and activists, we felt it is important that we must stand up. It's much like Dianne was talking about the importance of the museum in Boston. Our story has to be told, and they keep wanting to back off on that. And that's part of the problem, Barbara, with reparations. People see reparations as a way in which, they take it personally, like you're condemning white people. Well, you have to tell the truth, number one, but it's not all white people we're condemning, but we're condemning state action, federal, state, and local actions supported by many people, but those actions that actually have caused significant harm in the black community.
Absolutely. Daryl?
And, Professor Aiyetoro, that's just a really incredible analysis. And I tell you, a lot of the folks that I run into when we start the conversation about reparations, they begin, thinking like a class action suit. Am I just going to get $5.33 or something like that? Can you share with our audience what perhaps reparations could look like?
Thank you for that. My sister, who is now has transitioned, that it was one of the leaders within NCOBA, the National Coalition of Blacks for Reparations in America, one of the leaders in the reparations movement. Dorothy Benton Lewis says, and we've coined this in NCOBA, and I coined it. Now, hopefully, other people will coin it, not just in NCOBA. Reparations is more than a check. It has to be. We cannot repair the injuries by getting a check, individual check. First of all, those individual checks are going to go into individual bank accounts if you have one, and most people have one. And it's not going to really repair the injury. When we look at the injuries, and we've looked at the various harm statements that states have put forward, that organizations have developed, we look at education. We look at the fact that we were denied fundamental right of education. In fact, at one point, if a black person, an enslaved person, was taught to read, it was a crime. It was a crime. So it was against the law. So we look at education, and we look at it throughout. And we know how it's ongoing. It just didn't end. Discrimination in education just didn't end with the end of the legalized slavery. We know that. It continued into the 60s and 70s. Probably you can find some things still going on now. We look at housing discrimination. That's one of the things that has happened in Evanston, Illinois. The council there developed a reparations program that gave people who were injured, black people who were injured during the heyday of discrimination and redlining, families got $25,000 towards, to pay that injury or to repair that injury or